Travis here. This is the ceiling fan backdrop. um, yeah, no bookshelf or record collection behind me today. Anyway, this is week five here at Eastern Oregon University for Modern Russia, History 448. Our reading for this week is chapters 13 and 14 from the service book. We're dealing with World War II this week from the Russian perspective, of course. And then also, I'd like you to take a look at chapter 7 from the Taubman book. We're going to start reading the Taubman book pretty soon. So I'd like you to read chapter 7 from that if you could. Though this week's discussion primarily comes from chapter 13 and 14 from the service book. Now, we have no quiz this week. Yes, no quiz. Instead, this week, our assignment is a paper proposal. So as everybody knows, we are going to be writing a major research paper for this class. This week, if you haven't done it already, really need to see folks really start working on the papers. I want to have a paper proposal submitted as a graded assignment. By the end of the week, you'll see the paper assignment box in our modules area. I've put up a number of different items that can help you think about this paper and construct the paper proposal. These include a list of possible paper topics. They are possible. You don't have to use them. They're just a list of possible suggestions. I have placed a paper proposal template. Now, that's just a template, so when you do the paper proposal, don't leave my headings in there and everything. Sometimes people leave the directions on the template. It's a template, so take all the directions out and kind of just use it to structure, your paper proposal. Paper proposal, I want to see, what's the topic? I want to see a potential thesis statement. I want to see a paragraph explaining why this is significant. I want to see a list of like 5 sources, that kind of thing, academic sources. So take a look at that. And of course, also the paper prompt is up there for you to look at. General requirements on the paper. I have also placed as a sample essay, an essay from a previous class that is a kind of a sample of what a good essay looks like. So if you want to take a look at that, you want to see how it's cited, you want to see how it's arranged, that is up there for you to look at. So discussion forum as usual this week. I have 2 relatively short presentations this week. One is on World War II from the Russian perspective, and then the one is a short presentation that focuses specifically on the Battle of Stalingrad, and it's pretty short. But I wanted to give you a look at the Battle of Stalingrad. Stalingrad goes down as probably the most devastating and destructive battle in human history, with casualties well over the 1 million mark. The battle was fought between August 1942 and the end of January, beginning of February 1943. So I have a presentation on the Battle of Stalingrad, and then I also have a presentation on World War II from the Russian perspective in there this week. So readings, chapter 13 and 14, service, Taubman, chapter 7, paper proposal. This week's trivia is this. The Germans, of course, launched Operation Barbarossa on June 22nd, 1941. And this has been forever remembered as, in the long term, the turning point of the Second World War. The Germans launched a 3-pronged offensive. They very much caught Stalin off guard, and they pushed very far into Russia. They surrounded St. Petersburg or Leningrad and began to besiege that city. They also came within miles of Moscow. Eventually, during the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942, they will push all the way down to areas around, north of the Black Sea in the Caucasus Mountain region. So the Germans had some initial success. Ultimately, of course, they will be ground down, partisan fighters, and then eventually, partisan fighters will wage guerrilla war on them. And eventually, of course, when the Soviet military is fully ready to carry out the war, the Germans will be slowly pushed back on the Eastern Front. This, however, this, regardless of the fact that Stalin, or the Soviet Union, I should say, was successful, Stalin was caught off guard, big time. Stalin ignored a lot of different types of intelligence that would have told him that, hey, something's coming, we should be more prepared for this. And Stalin was sort of self-deceiving himself, it seems, and he ignored all of the cases of intelligence. And this really caused the Soviet Union, the Soviet army, and there's other factors too, but it really caused the Soviet army to be woefully unprepared for the coming invasion. In fact, and this is the trivia, on the eve of the invasion, there was a few loyal, well, they're German soldiers who were communist sympathizers, basically. And these German soldiers from places like Bavaria, they were sort of sympathizers with the Soviet Union. They were sort of sympathizers with communists. And they actually swam across the Bug River in Poland on the front where the invasion is going to start. It was cold water, and they swam across the Bug River to warn the Soviet army that the Germans were invading. They were basically German, deserters. They were fleeing German lines. They were German soldiers, and they were crossing the river to warn the Soviets that an invasion was coming. And perhaps there could be no other, kind of obvious warning sign that, that Stalin could have listened to, even though it was very short notice. But nonetheless, the fate of those individuals was not to be sort of accepted as individuals who tried to prevent this massive and catastrophic invasion, or at least allow the Soviets to be prepared for it. Instead, the soldiers who swam across, the German soldiers who swam across the Bug River, were executed by Stalin. And that really speaks to the lack of preparation, and as well as Stalin's, just thinking in general before and after the invasion. Rather than heed the intelligence, the individuals that were, the numerous warning signs that were there, including individuals swimming across the river, were ignored by the Soviets, and ultimately those individuals were executed. So that's the factoid for this week. Sorry, guys, long week announcement. Sorry. Let's have a great week.